Well, this was stupid, and I can't wait to talk about it finally. Brother. Hey, me Matt here, and finally gonna talk about Backlash 2002. Been meaning to do a Wheels of Fear episode about that, but you know what? It's all good. I don't know if that's good to debate on, but I mean, it's all good for because Backlash is coming up soon and next month, so that's good. And it's gonna be a good show too. But this show, I've had a lot of things I wanted to get off my chest with that, and just watching it again, it just seems like, well, the ending wasn't what I thought it was, but here we go. I don't know if I saw this one or not. I must have, but I don't remember the match. Big Show won, and again, it's kind of like one of those things where Just Incredible wasn't around very long after this, and Steven Richards, I think, as well, and obviously Paul White would be in there. He's been around for a lot longer than that in WWE. Then we go to the Cruiserweight Championship. You have Tajiri defeating Billy Kidman. And this match was very cool. And you didn't know who was going to win. And again, Yoshihiro Tajiri, one of the best cruiserweights in WWE, of course. ECW, you got him. You got the Japanese buzzsaw. And coming into WWE, and William Regal's assistant was like, okay, that's cool. I hadn't seen him on WWE TV, so let's see how this works. And then teaming with Tajiri. At this point, I believe he became a heel, and he had Tori dress up as a geisha girl, so, well, without the makeup. But I thought it was still pretty funny. He was just telling her what to do, kind of like a jerk off would, But this match was cool. You have the tarantula. You have Billy Kidman hit a sunset flip, but that didn't get the win. Tajiri ended up going over and becoming the new Cruiserweight champion. But I don't know how many matches they had after this, but it was pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, both very talented. Billy Kidman would be around for another year, and then not sure where he is. Well, he's an agent on WWE television now, so, it is what it is. And could he ever wrestle again? I'm not quite sure. I think he got injured, and he had to stop, And Yoshihiro is in Japan. He did retire from wrestling, so I'm not quite sure what he's doing now, but yeah, I mean, that was a very good time for the cruiserweights. You talk about 2016 to like 2019 or 20 and the cruiserweight division. I don't think that would have happened without this, obviously. And even though the cruiserweight title was also a WCW thing before it ever came to WWF. So We have Scott Hall versus Bradshaw. Kind of forgot about this match. You have X-Pac in Scott Hall's corner. Then you have Bradshaw in Farouk's corner. So this match was cool. You know, kind of like, I'm not quite sure if Shawn Michaels was a part of the NWO reincarnation, but this was after WrestleMania, so I'm not quite sure. But this was a good match, and you know, Farouk and X-Pac tried to get involved. Well, X-Pac tried to get involved. Farouk kicked his ass. You have a clothesline from hell from Bradshaw. Scott Hall somehow ended up going over, and yeah, this was a good match. The rumor is Scott didn't really last long. Well, the NWO kind of, this was their last year. Like, they didn't last very long anyways. Like, they kind of, I think they were there for 2 years. You know, that was it. So, I mean, also Scott had a bunch of problems, you know, and so it was like they didn't know how long he was going to last. And then, of course, you know, Bradshaw would become JBL, would become one of the more famous wrestlers of the 90s and the 2000s and so on. So, kind of too bad that the whole thing with Baron Corbin didn't last, but yeah, he was back on TV for a while. Yeah, the women's championship, we've got Jazz versus Trish Stratus, and couldn't find anything in this match, but Jazz ended up winning the title. And I think this was a good feud as well. I mean, it's kind of those things where you didn't know what was going to happen. And Jazz just came in and she did wrestle in ECW. So it was cool to see her in this element and having feuds with Lita and Trish, especially Trish, and the chemistry that these two had. But yeah, she was the champion, and I think later on managed by Teddy Long, if I'm not mistaken. You have this match, you've got Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman, obviously, taking on Jeff Hardy with Lita. This was around the time where Jeff took on heavyweights. Well, you know, the classic match he had with The Undertaker. You have this match, and this was a good match too. I mean, two different styles, but obviously Brock went on over with a knockout. Yeah, I knew Jeff wouldn't stand a chance, but he obviously did try, you know. And I think this was the only match they had in WWE. But yeah, this was pretty fun, in my opinion. But it was cool to see Jeff take on people that were twice his size and all that, so. You have this match, you got Edge and Kurt Angle. This is their first match. And I mean, you look at WrestleMania this past year, or that past year, whichever, and you go Kurt Angle taking on Kane and going over on Kane. So it's almost like, okay, how is this gonna work out? Where he is that monster heel, if you will. And he was a good heel, you know. And it was one of those things where it's like, taking on Edge was pretty cool. And they went back and forth, and you have no idea how much I thought Edge would have went over, as he should have. And then it also had history dating back Kurt Angle and Edge and Christian, but you have Kurt do the ankle slam and the ankle lock, and that didn't work. Edge had an execution. But somehow Kurt ended up going over. And then it might have been Judgment Day. I will look it up. The hair versus hair match where Kurt ended up losing his hair. And there's that classic rib where they were going to have Adam think that he was going to lose his hair. Which obviously that didn't happen, but that would probably be interesting. But it was cool to know that Kurt was able to have Edge go over at the next pay-per-view. Then you have the Intercontinental title, Eddie Guerrero versus Rob Van Dam, and these two guys really had classic matches, and I mean very similar styles. Both guys were high flyers. You have Eddie, who was wrestling in Mexico, Japan, sort of the same as Rob. I mean, both guys were in ECW, and both guys were in WCW, just at different times, but very, very similar styles, and that showed in this match, and they really took each other to the limit, just the high-flying spots that they did. But Eddie ended up winning the Intercontinental title, and I mean, Rob winning it the first time at WrestleMania against William Regal was actually very cool. And you know, keep forgetting that Eddie, well, yeah, Eddie too, but Rob is, I believe, 5-time Intercontinental Champion. So that's pretty fucking cool. Because here's a guy that was in WWF, and this was in 97. And he didn't do too much. He wasn't there for very long, but then coming back in 2001. And, you know, the invasion angle happened. Didn't have him win the hardcore title. But then, you know, after the invasion stuff happens, he wins the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 18 in Toronto, and you go, that's pretty fucking cool. Because that means you have this guy who was good enough to not only win that title at WrestleMania 18, but also go on to become multiple-time Intercontinental Champion in the future. So, yeah, you know, it was awesome to see that. And also Eddie. You know, Eddie was another one of those guys that, unfortunately, passed away when I heard a rumor that he was going to become the world champion at some point. And just think of the feuds he could have had if that didn't happen. So it's a tragic situation. And I mean, his demons led up to it. You know, actions have consequences, and he was sober a long time, and unfortunately, it caught up to him. So, still a hell of a wrestler, though, and very much one of the best, not just in WWF or WWE or WCW or ECW even, but just everywhere. So Now you have this match. It determined #1 contendership for a undisputed WWE title match, and it's Ric Flair as the special guest referee. Now I say WWE, but this was actually the last Backlash of the World Wrestling Federation, so yeah. But anyways, this match, you got the Undertaker, Big Evil, American Badass, well, whatever he was at the time, taking on Stone Cold Steve Austin. And this match was very cool as well. And I think that these two put each other to the limit. They had a lot of very, very good matches in the past. So, I mean, they didn't really disappoint. And, you know, just that chemistry. And there's that classic moment where you have Steve Austin being on the mat. And you have Undertaker who pins him, but Ric Flair is on the wrong side. And you have Steve's leg on the rope. And I don't think Rick saw it. He counted to 3. Undertaker won. So let's begin the feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Ric Flair. Eventually, Rick would turn on Steve and that whole thing would happen. But we'll get to the main event. You have the Tag Team Championship match, Billy and Chuck, who defeated Maven and Al Snow. I figured Maven and Al Snow wouldn't be Tag Team Champions, although Al Snow was the judge for Tough Enough, and Maven did win Tough Enough, and yeah, it was fine. I mean, later on, he would turn on Maven on Raw, but Billy and Chuck, you know, back then, I didn't necessarily get that team. Honestly, I didn't get it. And not for what you think, I just didn't see them together as a tag team. A good message, but I mean, you look at Billy Gunn, who has been a tag team wrestler since being in WWE, even in Impact Wrestling, and it's like, you know, that's pretty cool, you know. I don't think Monty really had a good singles run. I think when he was the one Billy Gunn, it was like, okay, that was fine. And he did have a good few singles matches, and he was the Intercontinental Champion. But I don't think he would have become WWF Champion. I don't think that may or may not have worked. But so you have this match. The main event, obviously, the undisputed WWF title, Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus Triple H. You know, I figured that I was going to do a review of this pay-per-view and get this off my chest, because here's the thing. WrestleMania 18, you have Chris Jericho. Well, we go back to Vengeance. You have Chris Jericho, who defeated The Rock and Stone Cold on the same night to become not only WCW champion, but WWF champion. And then you have WrestleMania 18. You got Triple H defeating Chris Jericho to become the undisputed WWF champion. And I wish the fuck that Roman Reigns or creative, whatever now, would have kept that tradition and just took the Universal title and the WWE title and just made one fucking WWE title. But we can't fucking do that. But that's now. Well, let's talk about this. Because Triple H wins the title. Hulk Hogan turns face. Okay. Go from the black and white to, once again, red and yellow. Cool. Okay. Awesome. We have this match. And I don't know why. And even back then, it was like, really? I mean, it was a good match for what it was. It really was. But the finish was the shits. And not just because the wrong guy won. Because, yes, the wrong guy won. And it's not, oh, well, you know, Matt hates Hulk Hogan. It's, anybody could have beaten Triple H. You mean we couldn't have had Triple H as the fucking champion for a few months? And then we have Chris Jericho interfering. Then we have Undertaker coming out. He interferes. Clocks Triple H. And you have Hulk Hogan win the match. Why? Why? So we can have Undertaker and Hulk Hogan at Unforgiven? So we can have the same bullshit that they had in 1991? There was no need for this. 9 years ago, you pulled the same bullshit. And this is, I don't know what was going on, and I don't know why this happened. I really don't. Because Triple H did not need to lose the title. In fact, watching that video that I just saw, you could have had a fatal 4-way for the undisputed WWF title. Why? Because fucking this match was ruined by 2 interferences. You could have had Triple H versus Chris Jericho versus Undertaker versus Hulk Hogan. Nope. Fuck Triple H. Because we're gonna have same. You know, it just kind of, I don't get it. I just don't fucking understand the logic. There was no reason for it. There was absolutely no fucking reason for it. Hulk honestly didn't need the fucking title. If you really wanted to do this, you could have had Triple H versus The Undertaker for the WWF title. Hey, that's never really fucking happened. I mean, yeah, we got Triple H and Chris Jericho and Hell in a Cell. But not for the title. Because we couldn't have that. And the thing that blows my mind is that you did not want to create stars that you could have created instead of having the same bullshit and rubbing it in people's face. Hulk Hogan came back. Okay. He didn't need the fucking title. And you know it! 18-year-old Matt was pissed off. And 38-year-old Matt is even more pissed off. Because it was stupid, it was bullshit, and it didn't need to happen. And I get it. A lot of wrestlers win the title. And yeah, that's true. They win a title. And then they lose it right away. But Triple H was white hot. And I thought it could have been better. But looking at it in a different way, I understand. You wouldn't have had Shawn Michaels versus Triple H at SummerSlam. Okay. So, in a way, yeah, okay. That could contradict what I'm... whatever. It still stands, in my opinion, that Triple H could have lost to anybody. And it would still be bullshit. But that was my opinion then, and it's still my opinion now. So this has been Backlash 2002. You know, it's one of those shows that I, like I said, felt like I wanted to do for a long time. And, you know, looking at the show today, because they do have highlights on YouTube and stuff like that. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was. I didn't see the show back then, unfortunately, but obviously watching the show and seeing how things changed and how I thought it was unnecessary, in my opinion, just the way it was. Well, in my eyes. But anyways, glad I got that off my chest, but that's Backlash, and hopefully Wheels of Fury is coming back with WrestleMania Backlash in Puerto Rico. Talk to you later. Bye.
So you know that them cutting WCW was a long time coming. But, you know, I think that there's this myth out there that Jamie Keller that's why he took pleasure in cutting WCW. I don't think that's the case at all. Because if you look at some of his earlier interviews, like